Good point, Jason.
All right, Brandy, how we looking here?
We're good. I'm waiting for the recording to kick in, which it has. So
Okay,
we
6
can-
p.m. I will call the DeForest Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Simpson, would you like to lead us? Everyone else, please mute.
Muted, yeah.
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the, sorry, I just got flustered. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
How are
stands,
you?
one nation, under God,
Sure.
indivisible,
Beautiful
with
day to be
liberty
working
and
outside,
justice
huh?
for all.
At least it's warm. It's not like super cold.
The trick tonight is.
Nicholas Street, could you please mute
First
yourself?
time my manager told me to do that, I said if it burns up, you're
They
responsible
got the
for
official
it. But
Portillo fanny packs. I should get one of those.
you can probably order them online.
Randy, are you able to mute him?
I'm trying. I'm having, so I have to stop sharing my screen here.
Yeah.
Connected.
So I can space my order with you then.
Yes, please, sir.
Could I please get a big beef with extra gravy, mozzarella cheese, and sweet peppers?
All right, the extra gravy on it or on the side?
On it would be good. Yeah. And then
Welcome to our world.
Nicholas,
Nothing.
Anything to drink?
Nope.
Large fries, the big beef, mozzarella, sweet peppers.
Do you have
and extra
control,
gravy.
Brandy?
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you.
The
All
problem
right,
is,
item 3, approval of the minutes from February 23rd, 2021. Anyone have any changes, comments?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion by Cahill Wolfgram,
I'll second that.
seconded by Taylor. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4, appearances before the commission.
Jason,
We've got a couple of people registered to appear. I first have a, let's see
Jason?
here. John
Jason?
Drury on the CF Investments concept proposal. John, are you on? So I'd
I'm
ask you
on. I
about
was just-
3 minutes we'll give you. The
Jason,
floor is yours.
Jason, Brandy's trying to get you.
I'm
Randy,
sorry.
hi, I'm here.
Hi, sorry. You didn't do the call to order and roll call, so I just want to make sure that you note that I noted roll.
Call to order. Brandy, would you please note roll?
Thank you.
Wow, I'm slipping.
Last
Mine is
meeting
the
and you're
second
just.
thing to go. All right, sorry, John Drury. I believe you've got about 3 minutes you wanted to address the commission. The floor is yours, sir.
So I just question, I'm addressing the commission before anything is presented by any of the project developers. Is that correct?
That's
And
what
no
that's what I
agenda
have
items
on here is that you wanted to speak on the CF Investments concept proposal. Mark?
Jason, do you want to entertain those comments now or when we're on that agenda and after I and the developer has a chance to speak? I guess maybe that's what John's getting at.
Well, I think,
We can, however, I don't believe it's actionable tonight. So
Right.
there's no vote, no action on the floor. Jim, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you want to take items out of order tonight.
We very well could. Is that a motion? Well, we got to get through appearances first before we do anything. So yeah, I guess I'm fine. John, if you want to defer till we actually address 6-1. And I think, who else did I have? I think Abe Degnan as well.
correct.
You okay with that? Abe will be okay. Okay. All right, anyone else wishing to appear before the commission for any items not published on the agenda? I will pause if anyone needs to come off mute. Okay, I see no one. Item 5, action recommendation 5.1 is a public hearing on a petition for rezoning from OR Office Research District to the M2 General Industrial District of approximately 3.8 acres on parcel 0910-332-9025-1 and from OR District to the C1 Conservancy District, the northern 1.2 acres of parcel 0910-332-9620-1 located north of Bear Tree Parkway and west of Peterson Crossing Boulevard. I will open the public hearing at 6:05 PM. Mark, did you want to frame? Go ahead.
Absolutely. And if you chose to, you could also open the public hearing on the conditional use permit, which is immediately following on the agenda, and we can kind of.
I am happy to. Let me read that one in the record. So item 5.2 is going to be combined. Also opening public hearing on a requested conditional use permit to enable a motor freight operations center servicing of trucks and construction equipment, contractor equipment storage yard, and 2 driveways on a collector street for Hooper Corporation Fleet Operations Center on property at 4159 Reardon Road, extending south to Bear Tree Parkway, parcels 0910-332-8851-1 and approximately 3.8 acres of parcel 0910-332-9025-1 in the earlier public hearing. Consider both of those public hearings opened at 6:05 PM. All right, Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much, Jason. I will try to frame the proposal, and then I know Rep. Bob from Hooper Corporation is also here, and it might be valuable to hear that before other members of the public offer their comments on the proposal. Brandy, could you go to PDF sheet 9? It's sort of in the middle of my report, and I think that will be helpful in understanding what's going on here. Yeah, that's the one. So the end result of these requests, if approved, would result in the development of a fleet operations center for Hooper Corporation that would extend between Reardon Road and Bear Tree Parkway, west of Peterson Crossing. Tonight, what's before the Plan Commission is a request to rezone some of that land to the M2 zoning district. The M2 is our general industrial zoning district. And the end result would be that the area in yellow that you see on the screen would be entirely zoned M2. The site that is along Reardon Road, the former Westland Restoration site, is already zoned M2, but the land that would be a part of the, I guess, new development area for the Fleet Operations Center is not, is currently zoned OR. So one thing you have on your agenda tonight is consideration of the rezoning of the part of the yellow area south of that black dashed line to M2. The other part of the request here tonight is to enable by conditional use permit the Fleet Operations Center itself. There are various components of that proposal that require a conditional use permit in the M2 zoning district. In particular, the outdoor storage component, which you'll see a little bit later on, and a request to have 2 driveways along Bear Tree Parkway, which you'll be able to see on the site plan. So that's request number 2 on the agenda. The third request is to essentially create and redivide lots owned by Hooper and surrounded by the red dashed line on the map. That would create a single lot for the yellow area, the Fleet Operations Center. It would create a separate create a separate lot of about 2 acres to its southeast that would continue to be zoned OR, office and research, and would intended to be provide a buffer of either office, research, or potentially some other compatible use between the M2 area and the housing to the east. And then a third lot or outlot within the certified survey map where it says 2C1, which would be a stormwater management outlot, which would serve both the M2 and the OR lots within the development. So the Plan Commission is being asked to recommend the rezoning to the village board, to conditionally approve a conditional use permit, one of the key conditions being that the rezoning is actually approved, and to recommend to the village board a certified survey map to accomplish the land division associated with all of this. If the village board again eventually agrees to the rezoning and the CSM, Hooper's next step would be to file a detailed site plan approval application, which would detail out the building elevations, the final lighting plan, the final landscape plan and screening plan, and other details of actual site development before they could pull a building permit and get started on the proposal. So with that, I just wanted to mainly frame the proposal for you, explain, what was the end result and what really is on the agenda here this evening. And then I'm happy to answer questions following the public hearing and go into my recommendations a little further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone first have any questions for Mark? Otherwise, I'm gonna turn it over to public comment. Okay. On the public hearing, I have registered to speak Ed Nowicki. Ed, are you here? You're on mute. You are on mute, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you are. Okay.
Sorry about that. The screen there, I couldn't get to unmute. I did submit some questions since I live right behind on Cortland Park condominiums. We have 16 completed units, and of which 6 families are currently residing, and our screen porches face directly towards the berm and towards the building there that is there now. Right now on our property, I look out my living room window, my porch, and that I see nothing but trailers, empty semi-trailers parked there, and it's not a very conducive site. They do have a berm, but it is nowhere near what it's supposed to be. And I did submit some pictures, and I took today to show what the landscape. That's right behind our house, looking down all the condos. I'm standing at the basement level. You can see in that first picture where the screen porch starts, that right above the ground, about right there, it goes across, and I look about 5 feet. I'm not opposed to actually doing it, but if they were to put a sound barrier similar to what you see like on Interstate 94 going on both sides around Milwaukee Street or down to Buckeye, that a noise abatement, there you go. Right now I'm sitting, that one I'm standing, and you can see the trailers to the left, and the trees are there. If they put a barrier above and behind, the decorative type that they're explaining all the way down, that would mitigate noise and dust control, because it's nothing but dirt. This, I'm sitting down in my back patio. All of us residents are currently see that right now. So my concern is the noise, because I know trucks go at 6 o'clock in the morning, leave because they got to get the stuff on site for those employees to start working at 7 in the morning. They don't start working at 9 o'clock, construction workers, I know that. So that's my biggest concern, is the noise and the traffic. By putting a barrier up, I think that would resolve the situation, a good one like this situated. This berm does not suffice.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Does anyone have any questions for Ed?
I'll be happy to have them come over and firsthand see, to my place. I'll let them see exactly what I see and go from there.
Okay, Jane, go ahead.
My question is this because it's construction now, or is this because it's going to be that way long-term?
I'm guessing it's long-term. There's nothing blocking the site of those trailers in that building back there. And then the other question I had is, I know they own that building. What is going to become of that building? Because right now there's 9 trailers parked in that, and I see 6 on my side. I don't know how many the other people see. There's buildings that are complete but not occupied yet. So for being a good neighbor to us, that would be the thing that I would like to see, is some type of opaque, soundproof fencing that went on the backside, where that top tree in the middle picture you're showing right here. Yep, that height would be suffice. Yes, right up to there. If you had a fence back there, then that would mitigate a lot of the things. You'd have a lot of happy people here, because otherwise you're going to have 16 families that are going to be very upset with trucks moving in all during the day and evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Jim, go ahead.
Ed, you mentioned that the berm was not as high as it's supposed to be. Was there original
Quite, yeah.
plan for it to be higher? Or are you saying that because you feel that it should be higher to block the view?
The berm is, I don't know, I'm not an expert on landscaping or anything, but if you're gonna have traffic going in and out, if you're stood in the ground, yeah, you can't see over that. But if you're sitting in your living room or looking out that's what you see. Putting a higher berm, no. Better answer would be putting up a retaining wall of a noise barrier. Like I said, like you see a lot of cities have to mitigate the noise from the interstates or whatever. You put up a nice, they suggest doing that all along the sides, all the way down the west side. And then I think even down the south side of that picture that you show on M2 on where the last condo is, because they would isolate, because we're only 30 feet from that lot, and I'm crazy. I was not aware that this was going to happen when we moved here and back in September.
Jim,
Chair,
does that
I
answer
have
your
a
question?
comments on, I have a lot of comments, but I would just suggest that we, kind of plow through the public hearing, and then, I can certainly respond to some of the comments as can the Hooper Corporation, and whose berm is that is the top of my list.
Okay.
Yep. I
Jim, do you have
believe
any other
Ed-
questions for Ed?
No, Ed answered my question, but like Mark said, I think there'll be follow-up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have this under on an actual item as well. So thank you, Ed. Next, I have Adam Jacobson.
Good evening. I have a very similar concern. I'm in Fox Hill Estates. I'm the president of the homeowners association here, and also on the board for Bear Tree Farms, helping them with their HOA. One of the main concern when I talk to residents here, there are actually three main concerns that are very similar, is that one, this rezoning does push the buffer between commercial or heavy manufacturing closer to residential areas. Ultimately, we had hoped, and hope is a big word, but that there'd be something that would be a visual buffer between us and the more unsightly, like heavy commercial stuff that is beyond. So this is a view off of my porch looking that same direction, and you can see the Cortland condos to the right there. So in this particular area on the plan, there's going to be, so right next to the Cortland condos, there'd be the pond, and then future OR to the left, and then before the dirt pile and the pond area is where this proposed development would be. I spoke with James in the past, Espinoza from Hooper, when they were doing all the grading at the Hooper site, and he mentioned that all of the equipment out there was their equipment, and their equipment is pretty large, like big wheeled dump trucks, like not like the ones that look like big mining trucks, and articulated dump trucks and scrapers and backhoes, like pretty large equipment. So our concern is that the storage area is going to be that gravel area that's on the screen right now. And all of that, that equipment is probably not going to be visually screened by a fence alone. And also a sound buffer between us and them. So we can currently hear noise that's going on in all the way up at the landscaping company. Circle B. So having some type of additional berm, like extending the existing berm that is behind the Cortland condos beyond to the actual shop, and then putting the fence on top of that, similar to what the gentleman just spoke about. And then also adding some type of landscaping is something that when I spoke to our neighborhood, like that was something that we all felt would look nice there. Like we're trying to, ultimately, we just want a good transition between the residential space and commercial space. And this, since the boundary is getting pushed closer to us, we feel a little bit more, just a modest investment in increasing that visual and sound buffer between residential houses that are like literally right there, and commercial, the commercial properties forward. The other concerns that we had were security lighting. I know you guys aren't there yet with the plan, but just to put it out there, like Miller Bradford's lighting, it lights up like a dealership, like a car dealership at night. They have pretty intense lighting there. We understand the safety concerns from Hooper's aspect, and we don't want to draw bad actors into the neighborhood with bad lighting, but if we could have a focus on lighting that is more surface level lighting versus the sky mounted lighting, like top down lighting, and making sure that lighting is not directly at residential areas. So having some type of screening on the lighting and whatnot. And the final component was traffic. So as you know, we have the Windsor Community Park directly next to us. There are a lot of residents with children, small children, and they play around this area. So people were concerned about even more traffic, like a higher volume of traffic with large semis hauling in large equipment with children playing near that. So if Hooper could direct traffic, and it seems like that's what they're saying, but direct traffic on the new Bear Tree entrance and through the Northtown subdivision versus going directly through Peterson to get to the place, that would be ideal for us.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Adam? I'm kind of surveying the screens. All right, Adam, thank you very much. That's all I had registered. Anyone else that wishes to appear at this public hearing? This is your moment. Speak now, forever hold your peace. And I'll give you a moment to come off mute in the event. If you do wish to appear, I just ask that you follow up with paperwork with Brandy. I have no one. All right, so I am going to close both public hearings at 6:22 p.m. All right, now I'm going to poll commissioners. We've got a pretty good handful of people. Some are here specifically for a CF Investments proposal, River Road Conservancy. Others, many are here for the item we just addressed. If there's anyone that wants to entertain switching it up, I'm here to serve. Otherwise, I'm going to keep pressing on. Okay, item 5.4, discussion and action on resolution approving a conditional use permit to enable a motor freight operation servicing the trucks and construction equipment, contractor equipment storage yard, and 2 driveways on a collector street for Hooper Corporation Fleet Operations Center at 4159 Reardon Road, extending south to Bear Tree Parkway on parcels indicated prior.
Chair Kramer, could you
Yes.
please also open discussion on 5.3, which is the
We're gonna-
rezoning,
sure.
and 5.5, which is the CSM, and again, we can just talk about all 3 at the same time.
5.3, discussion and recommendation petition for rezone from OR Office Research to M2 General Industrial District on 3.8 acres on parcel I mentioned above, from OR District 1 to Conservancy 1 District in the northern 1.2 acres of the parcel indicated above, located north of Bear Tree Parkway, west of Peterson Crossing Boulevard. Also discussion and recommendation on a CSM redividing into 2 lots and 1 outlot, 11.29 acres consisting of parcels indicated above between Reardon Road and Bear Tree Parkway and west of Peterson Crossing Boulevard. All right, Mark, back to you. So this is
Yes,
everything.
and I'd invite Bob from Hooper to chime in whenever he's got information that can supplement what I'm explaining. But Brandy, could you go to PDF page 22? It's the conceptual site plan. So I'd like to try to address at least some of the public hearing comments here. And the first thing that I will offer is that the berm that Mr. Nowicki discussed is on the condominium site. and was installed by the developer of the condominiums. It's not Hooper's or the prior owners of the industrial lot to the west's berm. So that's I think is a key point. Any proposal to put a fence on top of it, for instance, would have to be done in collaboration with the condominium association, I presume, because it's not Hooper's to manipulate otherwise. So that's one point that I'd like to offer. I'm not suggesting it's a bad idea. One of the things that they do have to do by code is they have to, the Hooper Corporation now is, you see all the cross-hatched area on the map here? By the way, north is right. So just to make sure you're oriented. Bear Tree Park, Peterson, or the Peterson Crossings on the south, the bottom of this particular graphic. But they do have to screen storage yards. So the screening standard is that if materials behind, if there's a chance that materials behind or in the storage area will be 8 feet or taller, they're required to do an 8-foot decorative screening fence, which they have proposed, or some substitute for a fence, and a berm would qualify. And in addition to that, to the outside of that screening mechanism, in this case, to the bottom of your screen, they're required to plant landscape plantings that grow higher than 8 feet to further provide a buffer. You don't see a landscape plan here. They did submit a preliminary plan, but in essence, the code would minimally require that from the point that berm stops to the south towards Bear Tree Parkway, there would need to be an 8-foot tall decorative fence, and then to the outside there need to be landscaping. Adam suggested an idea to put the fence and landscaping on top of a berm, kind of a similar concept to what I think Ed was hoping for. And that, certainly could be a possibility and be considered during the review process here tonight and as they move forward to detailed site planning. Let me address the kind of the buffer and the kind of encroachment concern. That lot you see labeled Lot 3 on this map, that again is set aside for, it's currently zoned office research. It's intended to be a buffer. I'm equivocating a little bit because I could also envision it developing in not a dissimilar way from Cortlandt Court. But that would require another rezoning, another public hearing, things like that. But that's the general concept for Lot 3, is that it would not be industrial, and therefore would provide further buffering or interruption of views between housing and this development. The next thing I'll offer in response is that the site to the immediate west of Cortlandt Court, where Westland Restoration used to be, is already zoned industrial. So with that zoning allows for a range of uses, some of them by right, including indoor manufacturing and warehousing. Some of this is who came first, who came second. This was an industrial site to the west of Cortlandt Court, long before Cortlandt Court was zoned and developed that way. So that is certainly something we'd consider. And further, the area you see in white where you see just the existing building, the proposal is to reuse that for storage. But to the extent that the area where Brandy's Pointer is right now is not used for storage, it's not required to be screened from residential property adjacent to it. The only thing that's required to be screened is outdoor storage areas, the main cross-hatched area to the south on the map. The traffic, I think one of the advantages of this concept, and we reviewed a number of them with Hooper Corporation, one of the advantages of this one is it does afford a considerable opportunity that traffic would be routed to the south along these Bear Tree Parkway driveways. And, at least for traffic headed towards the interstate, as I think Adam suggested, it could continue to head east or to the top of your screen out in that direction. But I will just say, I think a lot of the traffic, or some of the traffic at least, will go and follow that pattern, take Peterson Crossing down to the other site, the fabrication facility site. So there will be added traffic associated with this at that intersection. Lighting, correct. We can definitely work on dark sky lighting for this project in the detailed stage and in a manner that's more sensitive to neighbors than maybe lighting to the east is. So I think those address, or at least I tried to address the comments that were received here tonight. Maybe I'll pause and come up for air and see if there's any further discussion on those comments. And Bob, if you want to chime in, that would be fine too.
All right, first I'll ask Bob if you have any comments. This would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to open up for questions. You're muted if you're trying to speak.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. I think Mark captured most of it pretty well. The thought process of traffic primarily being on the south is a goal of ours. To see minimal traffic in and out of the north end of that complex. We definitely have in our mind between the fencing and probably as much evergreen style of screening as we can, because that provides more of a year-round break, would be what we would be looking to do. We understand we're bumping up against neighbors as we do in some of our current locations, and we've done similar things to create buffer between us and our neighbors. So, and as you might probably not, I don't think Mark went into this, but even in the design of where we put the shop and the office side of the shop, we were trying to create a little bit of softening, as the office is to the east side and more the entrance into the shop to the west. Again, giving a little buffer to the neighborhood that is to the east of it. But we do expect lot 3 won't be us, it'll be something else there of an OR nature, again, unless somebody comes in with something completely different. But we don't have any anticipation of occupying that for our own use. The area behind the stormwater there, outlet 1, that is an area we're going to have to work closely with the village to come up with the right mix of fence and landscaping buffer. It's an area that will be open to view from the neighborhood. We realize that. That's all I had.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'd ask the commission if anybody has any questions related to what we covered so far. Mr. Simpson.
I would just ask, it's been mentioned by Adam and Ed about a noise abatement wall. I, with my job, have touched on that, and I think that may be a good idea, but I also don't think that's actually, I'll say, realistic in this case, because of the way sound waves bend. I don't think it will actually be possible. I wonder if there's anybody else that can speak of that more professionally than I can.
Doesn't look like we have any volunteers.
Well, I guess I just lift it up as that. I think it's going to be more important to focus on the visual aspect of it and hope that mitigates some sound. But I think putting up a sound barrier is going to be problematic.
Do we
It's
know
going to
the
create a lot of shade as well. Tom Sandow, go ahead.
Do we know the hours that they're planning on running trucks in and out of there?
Well, I mean, Westland was moving iron at 4 a.m. So I wouldn't expect it's going to be any different.
The proposed hours are indicated in the materials in the packet. And I'm trying to track that for you now, but it's in the letter from Hooper Corporation, which would be part of the CUP. Let's see here.
It's,
It says official business hours are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but usually most activities occur between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, excluding holidays. Operations on Saturday and Sunday are rare, but can occur at times. Most shipping to and from the facility will occur from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, I'm
Anything
just
else?
wondering if we could write something into it to where the 6 a.m. is not allowed. I think allowed trucks going through there between 6 and 6:30 is gonna really make some unhappy people that live in that area.
It would be within your authority as a commission, considering the conditional use permit, to say 7 a.m. is the start of trucking to and from the property. And I can help you with that if you'd like to.
That would be certainly something. Yep, I would want to add that in.
You might have some, I might contest that, but I'll wait till we discuss it later. Anything else, Tom?
No.
Okay, anyone else? If not, I have a question related to the, if you go to the map and kind of how we're directing traffic. I know while we waited for Bear Tree to develop, we kind of made the truck route north onto Windsor Road. That was by design. I think the DOT helped us because we were eliminating access for all of those businesses at Highway 51. Which kind of gets back to my position that I would never want to do anything to further inhibit these businesses' ability to conduct business. They've been here a really long time, and they've done very well for themselves, given the difficult circumstances with losing access to 51. Now on that, Mark, maybe this is for you. To what kind of specs? I know like Bear Tree Parkway, I think that's not necessarily built to industrial specs, but I believe the road to the south, more like Heavy Haul Road, would be. I'm curious if we've classified the design criteria in how, what are, because we expected office research and we're getting heavy haul. Very big difference in weight requirements and road life.
Bear Tree Parkway, certainly west of Peterson Crossing and probably east, although we're not dealing with that here, was designed to handle trucking activity.
Okay.
As you mentioned, all of Peterson Crossing.
Great. Because it will take a licking.
Yeah.
Through the years. All right. Anybody else questions? Otherwise, we'll press on. I'm sort of scanning. I've got multiple screens. I don't see any other hands. Okay. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Or we're going to take these up?
Yeah, I would like to, Jason, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So, and Brandy, if I could, I know I'm bouncing you around, but if I could get you to go to page 8, PDF page 8, the first page of my report, and I'll just kind of go down from there. So I appreciate that this is kind of a balancing act site designed to accommodate business activity, and this land has been zoned for business development of different types for a long time. With the legitimate concerns of nearby residents. And so with that, I offer a recommendation for the commission to propose motions, first to recommend approval of the rezoning, to recommend the CSM and to take action on the CUP, but it's not without conditions. And I think some of them address the comments that have been received here today. So you see the top 3, there's 3 recommended conditions of rezoning. The first one I think is the most important one. And that suggests that southern area could be rezoned to M2 only upon the approval of a detailed site plan and issuing of a building permit for Hooper Corporation's project. We had a similar type condition on another industrial proposal. the M2 district does allow a fairly broad range of industrial uses. And it's my advice that we not open the door to all those, but rather keep it open as far as possible to allow Hooper Corporation's proposal to go through it. And that's the idea with recommended condition number 1. Condition 2 and 3 are more ministerial. They have to do with 2 with the fact that we don't precisely know what the stormwater requirements are because there's no detailed stormwater plan. And so we don't precisely know the exact boundaries of the outlot. We're 90% sure they'll be exactly like you're seeing on the CSM, but 2 gives a little wiggle room for them to adjust a little bit. And then the third one's a very standard condition. They have to get it all done within a year or, it stays zoned OR. So those are the recommendations on the rezoning. So when you get to that motion, I'd encourage you to recommend those conditions to the board. The certified survey map, relatively more straightforward. A few technical comments from me and particularly from the village's consulting engineer related to easements and other technical corrections on the CSM that are included later in your packet. And then the recommendation on the conditional use permit is for the commission to approve resolution 2021-904. And Brandy, if you could go down to that now, I'm sorry to make you bounce around so much, but that's the last time I'm apologizing. And then, so this.
No worries, you're fine.
But the CUP would be approved by this resolution. There's a lot of whereas. The now therefore be resolved describes the things that would be approved with the conditional use permit, the just various types of uses and the 2 access points on Bear Tree Parkway. And then it says, here's the conditions. And so at the bottom of this page 14, the first recommended condition is that you can't get the CUP and you can't move forward until you get the site rezoned. It's kind of a chicken and egg sort of thing. And then condition number 2, that goes on to the next page, suggests that they're kind of linked to the plans that they've submitted so far, except to the extent that when the detailed site plan comes forward, there might be an improvement to those plans. And that certainly allows for that. The third suggested condition is that relates to the fencing and trying to work on improving the fencing and the landscaping outside of it. That really goes down to A through D. And, if there was a desire to beef that up, we could certainly tinker with those. And then E, I think, is a relatively important one too. And again, kind of ties to this transitional nature of the site. The OR zoning district, what it's currently zoned, has building design and material standards and landscape material standards that are a little bit higher than the M2 district. This is suggesting that with the development of the site, they still be subject to the OR design standards, even though the site would be rezoned to M2. So in a nutshell, you can see various points where, I guess depending on your perspective, we're picking on Hooper or we're trying to protect the neighbors. And I think in some ways trying to protect the investment on that parcel that Hooper will retain to the south to the southeast of this site for, a variety of quality uses over time. So I've taken a long time to talk on this item tonight. I appreciate your patience, but there are a few moving parts and 3 actions that are being advised here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Otherwise, we're going to dive in. Jim, go ahead.
I'll say just a clarification with Mark. I know we have different site plan approval processes. I'm assuming this would be one that comes to the committee and not through our email process.
Yeah, and you could, I think by your request, we could make sure that happens. Brandy's the ultimate arbiter of that, but so I'll lean on her to answer that question completely.
Is there general consensus by the commission that we want to see the site plan before it's approved, given the potentially politically sensitive nature of the site? All nod your head and thumbs up or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Hickok. You're muted.
I think he was just agreeing.
Thumbs up, you were agreeing? Yes. Got it. All right, thank you.
The Zoom symbology, we need to give Mike some training on.
And we gotta, in the meantime, find where your mute button is. We might need to hear from you later. Okay, so anyone else, questions? Otherwise, we're gonna go right to the first piece here. All three are in front of us, 5.3 to 5.5. We would start with the recommendation to the village board for the rezoning from ORZ search to M2 general industrial. Anyone want to tackle that? Jim?
I'll make a recommendation to the village board for the rezoning of the OR office research to the M2 with the further description that's on the page 8, and also including all 3 of the conditions that was described on page 8 too.
You've
I
done
would
this before. Well
second
done.
that.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Jane. Any further questions, comments, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Right along to 5.4, action on the resolution approving the CUP to enable motor freight operation, servicing, construction equipment, storage, driveways, etc. on 4159 Reardon Road, extending south to Pear Tree Parkway. This is our action, so it is final. Look for a motion.
Also move.
Motion by Jane with the recommendations on the screen.
Yes.
Yep, and seconded. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Jane, seconded by Jean.
Can I ask for a point of clarification?
Yes, Jim.
So I think you're talking the
Oh, I'm sorry.
CUP, and the
Yep.
CUP is actually C, which is a
Yeah,
exactly.
resolution.
CSM's next. Sorry,
I'm sorry I did that to you. I should have
Yeah.
written those out in order.
CUP first.
I'll withdraw
So-
my motion.
And
You
then do
wanna
I accept
substitute?
that then?
I think the motion's dead when she withdrew
Yeah,
it.
we need a new motion then.
So I'll make a motion to approve the I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2021-904. It's written out in page 14 of our packet. And I'll make the recommendation as written at this point.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Jane, and that was me encouraging those recommendations. That's the next one, so my apologies. Everyone clear as mud on that? CUP right now, conditional use permit. Any questions?
I'm
Seeing
guessing
none,
this
all in-
is, well, I was just gonna ask, this is probably where we wanna add stuff, I would assume.
Yeah, yes.
If
Yeah.
Tom wanted to, yes,
Yes, I'd like to add a condition that the hours of operation do not start before 7 AM.
so first I'd ask the maker if they consider that a friendly.
I guess
Question.
I won't.
So not a friendly, Tom, is that a motion?
Yes,
So Tom is making a motion to add language to limit the trucking operations to 7 AM. Is there a second? Looking
I'll
for a
second it for discussion.
So seconded by Jim for discussion. Who wants to start? I'll let Tom go ahead.
I just, as close as it is to the condos, and it's not too far from the road, and then the house is just on the other side of that road. I think starting before 7 AM would just be, I don't think it would be, in the best interests of Hooper and keeping a good relationship with the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks.
Is that
Jane,
a hard stop all day?
Jane, go ahead.
I guess I have a problem with limiting the capacity of Hooper to conduct business. There may be jobs where they need to be on the road by 6 in the morning. So I'm really would not want to inhibit that. On the other hand, I'd like to encourage them to find ways to be compatible and sensitive to the needs of the neighborhood. And I don't know that those two things are incompatible. I think they could find a way to do that. They've been very accommodating. And so I would rather not limit them and ask them to be sensitive. So.
Well
Thank
put, Jane. Thank you.
Anybody else? Brian, did you echo those sentiments?
I am echoing those sentiments exactly. Yep.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Jean, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't want to prohibit or make or define, that they can't start until 6. In that proposal too, under item C, it says that, but usually most activities will occur between 7 and 4, even though that they've asked for their operations to be from 6 to 6. So if we're going to prohibit, if we want to back off 1 hour in the morning, then, what about the 2 hours then at night? I don't think that it's unreasonable to operate from 6 to 6. And I'm not going to support that.
Okay.
I mean,
thanks.
I'm not going to support the 7 o'clock.
The motion before us right now. You're not
Correct.
supporting. Okay.
The friendly part.
Anybody else? So I have a couple, Mike, go ahead.
I certainly don't know this, but I'm assuming the types of businesses that are in that area already are probably operating before 7 a.m. anyway. So I guess I'm with most of the rest of the group that I don't think it's fair to move it to a 7 o'clock start time. I think 6 to 6 is appropriate.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me okay? I just got a note that my mic was not working. Everyone hear me? Okay, great. So a couple thoughts. This goes back to, I believe, 2012, when we looked at this parcel as a bunch of farmland abutting against these businesses on Reardon Road that, for lack of a better term, were kind of the armpit. It was just stuff that was there, had been there for a long time. A lot of very successful growing businesses. There's been some turnover. And we did everything we could to make sure that they remained successful, despite the fact that Highway 51 was coming through and they were going to lose their access. I see Hooper on the other side of the table here, and I have to, gently remind everyone how incredibly easy they are to work with and how transparent they've been through the entire process. I have not seen a better neighbor developmentally, probably yet in the village in my how many years. So I do thank them for all the efforts that they've made. And if there's a partner in the construction and industrial world that's going to do everything possible to sort of make it as livable as possible, given that all of these homes came after these parcels were designated to be industrial and manufacturing, it would be Hooper. So with that, I'm not going to kind of box them into what hours they could operate and be successful. That would have a tremendously detrimental impact on their business operations. And I guess I'll stop there. Anyone else? Otherwise, this is the motion to just include the limitations on the 6 a.m. trucking operations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
The opposed opposition has it. Motion fails. Back to the original motion with the CUP as written. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right. 5.5, this is the CSM. Redividing into 2 lots with the additional recommendations that just vanished.
Mhm.
Anyone wish to make that motion? Scott? Your box lit up, so I figured you were speaking.
Yeah, I would make the motion. Yeah.
Motion by Scott. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jane. Any additional discussion?
I'm assuming the motion is as written on number or page 8 with the conditions.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. Sorry? I'm gonna recall that question. I think we got a delayed audio. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. The wonders
Jason,
of modern technology. Brandy,
I missed who seconded that motion. I have Rick
Scott
said,
and Jean.
Jean, thank you.
All right, now I would entertain a motion to,
Hey, Jason, before we go there, I'm just wondering if we could, do we know when the site plan might come back for those people in the audience? Is it gonna be next month or is it gonna be a while, or do we know?
any ideas from either Brandy or Hooper?
It'll
It's
be
not.
fairly soon. I don't know if it'll be next month, but it probably will be next month.
Yeah, I would say one of the next 2 months is likely. So we just need to get plans well enough in advance of the meeting, which is coming, pretty quickly for our April meeting. So in the next week to 10 days. So otherwise it would be on a May meeting.
Okay. So unless everyone wants to stick around for Shoreline zoning, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move to item 6.1.
So moved.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Jane.
Yep.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are at item 6.1, presentation and discussion on a concept plan for mixed multiple family residential
Aye.
commercial development proposal in the northeast corner of the intersection of Innovation Drive and Conservancy Way. Future River Road location within the Innovation Springs neighborhood of the Conservancy Place development. Discussion and presentation, no action tonight. But I do have a couple people that wanted to appear. Is it okay to start there? Or do you want me to have them present first?
Yeah, Jason, I would encourage a presentation first and then that comments can be informed by the presentation.
Perfect. Okay. So who is here for the CF Investments?
Hi, Craig Frank, and my son Corey is here. We're representing CF Investments on this project. And we'll be presenting a concept plan for development lots 3 and 5 Innovation Springs. Give a little history of our site assessment process. We started in 2019, actually, how time flies. And been working with the village staff since. We are excited here to hopefully be able to break ground this year yet. We have a fairly aggressive schedule here that we now need to try and comply with if we can. We have got things real close right now. A couple tweaks that we'll probably be doing between now and our formal presentation. That being said, I can put you right through to Corey here to go through the presentation, and we'll be open up for any questions that anybody may have.
Right, I'm Corey Frank with CF Investments. So we can take you through a short presentation here that I'm sure a lot of you have already seen, but we'll go through it all again here. Brandy, if I think you're sharing your screen right now, if you wanted to unshare it, I could share mine. That way you don't have to scroll through. All right, got it.
Perfect. Unless you want to say next 100 times.
Yeah.
Next.
Figured I'd save you from that. All right, so is a screen showing up on everyone's computer here?
We got it.
All right, yep. Sounds good. So I'll start with just a quick background on CF Investments. So based out of the McFarland area, and CF Investments has been in the real estate business since 1985. With the current focus of pursuing redevelopment opportunities, residential mixed-use projects, and land development, with over $200 million in projects that are completed or currently under construction. Some of our recent projects, locations such as Cottage Grove, McFarland, Windsor, Sun Prairie, east side of Madison. Generally, we're focused in the Madison area and suburbs. A brief overview of the project, and then we can go into more detail. So CF Investments has interest in proposing a 4-story mixed-use building consisting of 8,000 square feet of commercial frontage space and 125 multifamily units. Interior structured parking ramp to minimize the need for surface parking. In addition to the mixed-use building, we intend to include a total of, with the townhomes, it'd be a total of 69 condo units as part of the project. Parking for the development, which is a big aspect, requirements are 336 for the amount of units and bedrooms. Our current site plan has 435 on-site parking stalls. So very close to a surplus of 100 stalls. Total projected value of the proposal would be over $30 million. Here we have our most up-to-date site plan. So this is at the corner of Conservancy Way and Innovation Drive. The road is currently stubbed to this point here on Conservancy, with plans on extending Conservancy to the north and south if this development moves forward. So starting from left to right, so west to east here, we have the mixed-use building, which has the internal parking structure, which actually covers all of the parking requirements for the building. The first floor, 8,000 square feet of commercial frontage is on this southern portion here. Which you see directly below that, the surface parking for the commercial space. Heading towards the east, we then have a couple outdoor areas, and then we get to the condo buildings. So we'll go in more detail the different types, but there's 3 different building styles with several different layouts and price points, all for purchase condos. Here we have a site plan overlaid over aerial view, just to give another look for everybody here. So to the north, you see ABS. To the south, you can see the parking lot for the Tender Reflections building. Now we'll take a quick look at some concepts for the some of the outdoor spaces on the proposed site plan. So we'll start with the entry plaza, which is outlined in red here. So we're still finalizing exactly what we'll be putting there, and we're open to overall suggestions. And ideally, with it being on the corner, we want to have something that looks very nice to the neighborhood and a good focal point. So here we have a few examples of similar spaces, whether there be a water feature, seating, plenty of landscaping, possibly a bike share station. And then moving on, the next item would be the commercial, the concrete space in front of the commercial space, which you see outlined in red here. So one of the most recent changes in conjunction with village recommendation was pulling the parking lot further away from the mixed use building, allowing for a more usable frontage space to allow future commercial tenants to have outdoor seating and have more of a walk-up feel from the parking lot. And here we have a few examples of similar properties in their entry space to the commercial. Next space to highlight would be the outdoor amenity area, which is highlighted in red again. This is just directly south of our outdoor space and proposed retention pond. So here, again, we don't have anything set in stone and working through the exact aspects of this. A lot of it always depends on demand from the tenants and condo owners as well. But this is where you'd see the typical gazebo, fire pits, grills, potentially a fenced dog space. And here we have a few sample images of similar properties as well. Now we'll move on to some renderings here to give a better visualization to everybody. So this is from, it'd be the southeast corner. So starting from left to right, we have the mixed use building at the corner, 2 10-unit townhome style condos with underground parking. These have 2 parking stalls underground per unit, satisfying parking needs and minimizing unsightly surface parking, just like the mixed use building. The red building you see centered in the property is a 27-unit garden style condominium. So this would be the typical garden style building with underground parking and elevator. And then furthest east, we have the 2 6-unit townhome buildings, which give yet another option for condo buyers, which this would be the highest square footage option, private 2-car garages, and finished basement space. Moving on to another view here. This is directly from the east. This will give you a better idea of the building in relation to the ABS sites in north and the interstate. So on the right, you have ABS. To the left, you have the Tender Reflections building. Now this one would be directly from the south. So this one, I think, does the best job of giving a overall view of the site. So this is straight from the south. You have the mixed use on the west, on over to the 6-unit condos on the right. To the south here, you have the Tender Reflections building. So you can kind of see how the footprints of our project relate to that building, which I believe actually has a potential second phase of south, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have some ground level views. Top left would be commercial frontage. The top right is a view from the street there from the south, where you see the 2 townhome style buildings. Bottom left would be a more closer up view of the garden style with the underground parking and elevator. Now to go into some more detail on the different building types. So we'll start with the mixed use building. So this building features a internal structured parking ramp, which results in more open green space and reduced surface parking requirements for the project. There are actually over 2 parking stalls per unit within the building, which is fully surrounded by the residential units. Covered parking is also available for commercial space employees inside the ramp. This style building has a positive impact on stormwater management by reducing impervious parking surfaces. and also minimizes the unsightly aspect of exterior surface parking. Building amenities, there are plenty with this style building. The most unique is the rooftop amenity, which is over 14,000 square feet and features patio, tables, sports courts, grills, and fire pits. Indoor lobby, office, fitness center, and lounge. The building features several sustainability aspects. For one, construction will be supervised by an energy consultant and will be Energy Star certified. The building uses the most advanced heat pump technology for heating and cooling. This is the most efficient system available, and this also results in no unsightly exterior grills on the building that you would have with most alternatives. Interior finishes, all units to have wood laminate floors, quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, high quality cabinetry, solid core Craftsman style painted doors, large windows and patio doors, and private decks or patios. We touched on a few of these, but benefits versus a typical apartment style building. One of the biggest items for tenants is the ease of access. Tenants have the ability to park on the same floor as their unit, which makes a trip from vehicle to apartment as seamless as possible. Although the building does have an elevator, tenants rarely have a need to use it since they're parking on their same floor right by their unit. The 2+ covered parking stalls per unit, which we talked about. The typical covered parking stall to unit ratio is around 1 for most apartment complexes. This, of course, is over double that. The reduced need for surface parking, allowing for more green space. Also, with excess space available in the parking ramp, we have large storage areas that are implemented for tenants with varying sizes, from 4x4 on up to 6x15, which you don't typically see. The rooftop amenity, which we just took a look at. And also one big aspect is there's 11 different unit types, which also include 2-story townhome options within the building, which offers more price points and options than a typical apartment complex. And also utilizing the highest efficiency HVAC system gives benefits to tenants, including zone heating and cooling, which allows them to have a different temperature in each room, built-in dehumidifier setting, and also the reduced utility bills. Now we'll move on to the affordable condominium aspect. So that's the other component of this project that we're very excited to introduce to the area. The condo mix would be 2 10-unit townhomes with underground parking, 27-unit 3-story garden style condominium with underground parking elevator, and then the 2 6-unit townhomes with 2-car garages and finished basements. The above mix will provide options for a wide range of lifestyles and demographics. The square footage ranges from 740 on up to 1550 for the 3-bedroom units. Mix of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 2+ den, and 3-bedroom options, which gives and several different layouts to choose from within that. Prices will be starting around $160,000 for the 1-bedrooms in the garden style, on up to the $300,000, about $300,000 for the larger townhomes with the 2-car garages. This will offer DeForest residents with a new construction option and a price point that isn't currently available in the area. So starting with the 10-unit condos. So these have the heated underground parking with private entry to each unit. So basically each unit gets to park directly below their unit with 2 parking stalls. They have 2 storage units and then also private entry stairs up to their unit, which keeps the building much more private than any similar options versus the shared stairwells and hallways. High-end finishes throughout, mix of 2-bedroom, 2+ den, and 3-bedroom options. Prices starting in the 220,000s. Recently built with great success in a few locations, Cottage Grove, McFarland, and Sun Prairie being a couple. The 27-unit condos, these condos we're real excited about, will provide affordable new construction ownership option that currently isn't available in the Dane County market. The target market of this building will be more so for empty nesters looking to downsize and preferring accessibility without stairs. It's three-story garden style with elevator. Really, if you look in the Dane County market, there hasn't been much of anything built since 2008 or earlier offering the garden style condo, which offers a single-story living with elevator. There's been a few, but in the much higher price point in areas such as on the lake in Madison. Heat underground parking with 30 stalls per building and additional 33 surface parking stall spaces as well. These will have the same finishes as the other condos as well, and mix of the 1-bedroom through 3-bedroom options with actually 6 different layout options and price points, and the 3 floors to choose from as well. Prices ranging from $160 to $230 for the 1 on up to the 3-bedroom units. So the affordable condominium aspect of the project, we feel will fill a major void in the current DeForest housing market. Recent DeForest Windsor housing supply and demand study shows a considerable gap in housing in these ranges for seniors and the local workforce, including teachers and public safety personnel. There have not been affordable new construction ownership options in years in the Windsor DeForest area. Current lowest price new construction options on the market in DeForest, and this is actually spread out to Windsor as well. These numbers took off of MLS. It was a couple weeks ago, so it might have changed slightly, but lowest price condos were $331,900. Lowest price single family near $400,000, and this is for new construction. Our proposed condos will range basically 160 to 300 range and everywhere in between, giving multiple different layout options and price points. The next item to discuss would be the housing mix and density. The original vision of Conservancy Place, which I'm sure most of you are aware, is to provide a variety of housing options, providing a full spectrum of prices, styles, and types. This was taken from the 2013 PDP. It went on to say, by expanding the range of housing in the community, the development will strengthen its diversity and add neighborhood character. Higher density living options offer flexibility to create additional open space areas that foster community interaction and provide the residential densities required to support retail services within the town center marketplace. Conservancy Place has been approved for up to 711 attached housing units, including condominiums and apartments, which will provide homes for enough people to support future commercial development. So far, only 8 rental units have been built so far in Conservancy Place, which is of course well below the original vision for the area. As stated by the Conservancy Place developers in their support letter, this project is consistent with current zoning, hits the vision and goals for Conservancy Place, and is perfectly situated along a major artery within Conservancy Place that were designed for projects just like this. To touch a little bit on traffic, since there's always traffic brought up with any new development. The staff report touches on this quite a bit as well, but just go into briefly. So the existing and planned road network within and adjacent to Conservancy Place has been designed to accommodate substantially more development and traffic per land area than this project will generate. And generally, of course, multifamily produces much less traffic per unit than a single family development and significantly less than most commercial uses. The structured parking we feel will also be a big benefit, which will allow for traffic to be much more consolidated and organized and much more sightly within the site other than other traditional uses. The surplus of stalls also minimizes need for street parking, which could be a concern from other uses, especially with the sports complex nearby. A lot of developments, whether residential or commercial, overflow parking always tends to park on the street nearby. With this proposal having 99 additional stalls beyond the requirements for DeForest, which DeForest requirements are actually pretty high to begin with. We're looking real good to contain all necessary parking and then some within the site and have no need for any tenants, condo owners, commercial visitors, or residential guests to be utilizing the street at all for parking. If this project is approved, Conservancy Way will also be improved north to River Road and south to Windsor Road, also further reducing any traffic concerns. We'll touch on the need for residential use in Conservancy Place. Conservancy Place has struggled to attract commercial users for years. Every successful commercial-based neighborhood needs a catalyst, and we feel there is none better than for this given location than our current proposal. This project is providing several housing options that aren't currently available in DeForest. The tenant and condo owner base for the proposal will also bring an added disposable income base that is highly attractive to bringing in future businesses. In addition, this project offers quality, affordable housing that employees desire and is needed to attract larger businesses to a given area. The mixed-use building will be cutting-edge luxury rental option that is much more affordable than the comparable options located in areas such as downtown Madison. This will look to attract residents to the community that may not have otherwise considered. And to give a brief summary, we feel this project is very consistent with village discussions related to these sites. We actually started the process looking at this site, it would have been December 2019. So over a year ago, about a year ago, we presented the village with our first concept plan. And in the year since then, we have made multiple revisions, worked with the village throughout the process, and we feel we've come to a site plan that is very well refined, and we feel very good about where the current site plan is at this point. We also had a neighborhood meeting a couple weeks back to discuss with the neighborhood and address any potential concerns. We also feel this proposal maximizes the site to its highest and best use by giving commercial frontage, addressing a demand for apartments in the area, and offering amenities that will attract high-income tenants and businesses that may normally be residing in more densely populated locations. This tenant base has more expendable income to support local businesses. In addition, attractive to new businesses that require this type of housing product to recruit employees. And then another key aspect we feel is that it acts as housing as a revenue builder for DeForest by increasing the number of households and housing types that place few demands on public services versus a single family development, for example. The proposed project will help to broaden the tax base without the higher service needs that typically accompany single family housing, as previously mentioned. And at this, we'll open it up to further discussion or any questions.
All right, thanks a lot, Corey. I will definitely open it up. And I had actually two people wanted to speak, so I'm gonna let them go first. First, I think we had John Drury. Are you still on, John?
I'm still on, yes.
Yep.
Can you hear
So
me?
I will give you the floor here.
Okay. Thank
Try
you.
to
So
keep it
yes,
about 3 minutes, we'll say.
okay. So I'm John Drury here with my wife, Lisa Drury. We're residents of the area community and also own Conservancy Apartments adjacent to the development. We did listen to the last presentation a couple of weeks ago by the Franks also. First of all, I'd say there are a couple of aspects of the development we think would be nice additions to the community. The first concern we have is related to the 6-unit townhomes that are shown in the graphic right now. We brought this up at the last meeting, and it's the orientation of those units. Currently, the rear of the buildings are facing Innovation Drive, and in the staff report provided by Mr. Rolfers that was put out in the agenda today, talks about the strong orientation to the street of the existing buildings, and it's a hallmark of Conservancy Place. We feel that these are not consistent with that and are not part of the hallmark of Conservancy Place. So at our last discussion, we strongly encouraged them to reorient those buildings, and it said that it was something they thought they could accommodate. So again, we feel that's very important. Right now, it sort of reminds me of, if you got a nice smile and you smile and your front tooth is missing, that's sort of what this reminds me of. It's just, I think as we have this more pedestrian friendly walk here going to the commercial area, I don't think it's consistent to have people walking along the backyards when we have other buildings that have been developed in a very sensitive way and thoughtful way. Our next concern is regarding the homes that Mr. Frank talked about, the condominium homes and the units that will be priced in the $160,000 price range that are less than 750 square feet. I think he made it very clear that that'd be the first time a product like this would be offered to the Dane County market. And I think when we talk about a vision and a feel for Conservancy Place, I think we all like the development as is right now. And I think having new product in here would be a great addition, but I'm not sure we want to be, an experiment for offering $160,000 owner occupied units. As they pointed out, the average price is about $330,000 for a condominium. To be able to offer something less than half that is to me would be an experiment that I don't think we all know what the outcome would be.
So I can touch on that aspect quickly. So the garden style condominiums are in no way new to the Dane County area. There are just a significant amount of garden style condos in the Dane County area. What I was trying to touch on there is since 2008, there have been barely any garden style condos built. And reason for that is 2008, with the recession, lender requirements heightened greatly and made it a lot harder to get financing for condos. Developers were needing to get 50% pre-sale before getting loans, items like that. So that's the reason they haven't been built in the last 10 to 15 years in the Dane County area. It is a very well tested product. It's all across the country and probably the most common form of condos when you look at total units. And that 1-bedroom unit, you look at the pricing on that, the per square foot price is right up there with a new construction house, depending on what you're looking at. So it's not cutting the market pricing. It's providing a 1-bedroom option in a garden style building that isn't currently available as a new construction option in the Dane County area, with the exception of a couple that we actually have under construction right now in Cottage Grove, which are going over very well in the first week of marketing. So I hope that kind of answers questions on that. Any other?
And just to further that, as far as values, generally speaking.
Can I ask a point of order? Because I
Hang on,
think
yeah.
it was actually
So-
John's.
John, I wanted to ask John if you had any other questions related to your public comment, and then I'll ask the Franks if they want to address them.
No, those are my comments that I want the plan commission to
Okay,
think
thanks.
about and
And
address.
Jim, yeah, so Craig, go ahead if you had a couple points to add to
Sure.
John's comments.
Just regarding values and the overall product that we're presenting here. These are all going to be high-end units. Our price per foot will be beyond the existing. I just did some quick calculating because I thought that question might come out. And the smaller units are going to be over $200 a foot. These will do nothing but increase the value, if anything, in the immediate area. So we're very cognizant of that, and we've really appreciated what has gone on thus far with Conservancy. I'm a local, and I've seen it from when it's just strictly a cornfield 20 years ago. So I understand what's been developed there and the community, and we feel that this product, of course, will be a very good fit and will be a net positive. Regarding the 6-unit townhomes, we have been wrestling with that, and we still do not have a resolution. The stormwater requirements, we're getting real close to having them defined. We just had some more test borings done, and we're refining what our needs are going to be. The initial thinking when this was engineered was that that area between the 6-unit building and the street would be needed for utilizing rain garden area. So it really isn't reflective of what we see in this current image. There will be extensive landscaping there along with the berm if we have to go that route with the rain garden. But we just don't have that answer yet. So, which again, we just got some more test holes back. I think it was yesterday, Corey, and the soil analyst was out there. So, so just want to let you know it is something we're cognizant on and still working with. So,
all right, thanks.
Grading plays a pretty big factor here too with the style building we can put in that given location. But again, we're open to suggestions and looking at all options.
All right, thank you very much. I also have Abe Degnan was registered, wanted to comment on the proposal here. So go ahead, Abe. You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought that I unmuted. I wanted to first acknowledge that the developer has put a lot of effort into trying to address the concerns of the neighborhood. They have done some really good things that have taken a huge step forward from the proposal they gave us last year. However, there are distinct concerns that are still legitimate and huge concerns about what they're proposing right now. So number one, I'm just wondering, as we go back to talking about these 6-unit buildings, if there's need for rain garden. So if you look at the rest of this Conservancy Place neighborhood, all along Innovation Drive, even along Innovation Drive, the developer and the village made a decision to change it so that instead of having multifamily along there, you have single family along there with driveways going out to Innovation Drive. Now that's a huge concern for some of the people in the neighborhood, but in terms of the neighborhood aesthetics, even this area along the major road has the front of the houses, the front of the townhouses, the front of the condominium units facing the road. There is basically nowhere in Conservancy Place where anyone's backyard faces the road. And so I'm wondering if the solution, if stormwater management is necessary, then is just to slide these 6-unit buildings out towards the road and then put the stormwater management towards the back, and then reorient the buildings so that the front doors face the street the way that the neighboring apartments do, and the way that the rest of the townhouses and condos in the neighborhood do. The second thing, as a member of the village board, when Conservancy Place was originally approved, the intent, the legislative intent of this neighborhood was for it to have a 70-30 ownership ratio. So while it appears the way that the statistics are done, saying that you could have a maximum of this many rental units and this many condominium units and this many single family units, the intent is not for the number of single family and condo and owner occupied units to be minimized while the number of rental units is maximized. The legislative intent of the village board who approved this was for it to meet that 70-30 ratio, and that is key for the Planning and Zoning Commission, the developer, the potential buyers of this land, and the village board to remember. My next point is about the large building. There's some significant improvements that I see, at least in the way that the renderings are being presented to us, in the way that this large building is being developed compared to last year. I appreciate that they've acquired another acre of land. I appreciate that they have moved it back from Innovation Drive and put the parking lot and the buffer space along Innovation Drive. Really good moves. However, at the same time, they have not decreased the density of this overall development to what the neighborhood has developed as. Now, I told you guys last year, I think maybe at either Planning and Zoning or at Village Board concept presentation, that as a board member at the time that this neighborhood was developed, that we were looking at something around the ballpark of 14 units per acre. And we can see that this neighborhood is developed at well under that amount. That yes, this was intended to be a diverse neighborhood, but this developer and the village, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the village, by approving the wishes of the developer and transforming this into more of a single family neighborhood and less of a multifamily neighborhood, has steadily decreased the density of this neighborhood. So we need to pay attention to what has actually happened over time, as well as what the legislative intent of the village board who originally approved this was. So I was down in Cottage Grove last week, and I saw the scale of the building that they're building there right now, which is purported to be very similar to what is proposed for DeForest. The thing is huge. The thing is absolutely huge. It goes on and on and on. Comparing it to the assisted living across the street is not a fair comparison. While the assisted living is a single level thing that sprawls from east to west, this is a multi-story building that sprawls both from east to west and from north to south that is being proposed. If there was a way to bring this down to the density of around 14 or so that I believe that I told you guys about last year, I think that would make a lot of sense. But at 19 units, I think it is still too large of a building and too dense of an overall concept. I do truly appreciate that they added another acre to the site and that they moved it back from Innovation Drive. That's a big step forward, but they need to take another step yet in order to get it done. Now, those are my primary concerns right now. The last thing I have to mention is TIF. I know that this developer is going for TIF funding. I know that the Planning and Zoning Commission does not control TIF funding, but I want the Planning and Zoning Commission, as members of the village, as voters of the village, as people who will talk to the village board, to take note that there is not enough commercial development in this project to justify TIF. Residential does not justify TIF. I don't care that they have asked for a restructuring of the TIF for it to be this refundable structure. It is not justified, and I will stand against the TIF. I will continue to stand against it. And so I hope that is everything that I had to address, and I will look forward to upcoming meetings and public hearings to continue addressing these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe. So does anyone have questions for Abe? I see a mark. Hang tight. Jim, go ahead.
So Abe, I am not opposed to what you're saying, but I do remember that one of our first TIFs at the village included residential. I think you were on the board at that time. Do you know how that worked at all? Or I guess
Well, Jim,
maybe it's a bit of a side point.
yeah, what I remember about that, Jim, is that the residential was included in the TIF, but the TIF was not going to fund the residential. The residential development in that TIF was subsidizing the commercial redevelopment of the TIF district because that TIF district overlapped. I'm pretty sure that that overlapped part of the downtown, if I remember right, Jim. And so,
Yes, it did.
so that funding from the residential district around the middle school was subsidizing the redevelopment costs of the downtown. In this scenario, we have the opposite situation where we have a greenfield development that should be able to stand on its own. If this is a good idea, then it should be able to stand on its own, and there is no reason for there to be TIF funding going to subsidize this developer and subsidize the land purchase price from the Conservancy Place developer. The two of them need to negotiate this on their own without TIF subsidy.
Okay, Jane, go ahead. Oh, Jim, sorry, you still have the floor.
Nope, I just thank Abe for the historical background.
Okay, Jane?
Just not necessarily a question directly to Abe, but I too went down last week and toured the project that's under development. Saw some residents that were there. The units are beautiful. The units are exceptionally well designed. The amenities are very nice. The parking is nice. The convenience is important. As a woman coming home at night, to be able to park on my floor and not have to come from a basement up to my area to enter a unit is a wonderful thing. I was also impressed with the condos and the care that was taken with landscaping and the work that's being done. I know they're still under construction, but I want to be real clear that I think there were 12 of us who went down, and the units were not massive, out of sorts with the surroundings. The other thing that I want to point out is that DeForest needs rental housing. They need affordable housing that is decent, but still affordable. We have a lack of units available for our residents. Recent housing studies, recent inquiries.
Sorry, Jane, I don't want to cut you. I'm sorry. I want to keep it to just questions for Abe right now. We're definitely going to have discussion. I don't want to get.
That's fair.
So does anyone else have questions for Abe?
Jason, given that, may I make a brief response, please?
Yes.
I don't want to just.
Abe, if we are, I'm going to ask Jane to finish though.
You take your pick. I'll say what I have to say, then you take your pick. I don't dispute any of what Jane has said, but I dispute that any taxpayer subsidy should be happening through TIF district in order for any of this to happen.
I didn't say that.
Gotcha. Okay. So, Mark, I do want to go back to you before we get into our discussion here. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important, most important right now to talk about what the scope of P&Z review is. Right now at this meeting, you're being asked to provide comments, reactions, degrees of support for a concept plan submittal. You are not taking any formal action tonight. If things go as the Franks hope, you will be, final development plan and detailed plans will be brought forward to you at a later date, perhaps as soon as April, we'll see. Your job and your only job is to evaluate this project as to whether it meets applicable zoning standards. Those are standards that are laid out in the preliminary development plan as updated in 2018 and the village zoning ordinance to the extent the preliminary development plan refers to it. And if you don't think it does meet zoning standards, then I think it's your job to point out or to suggest where it might not, and we can sort things out with them. You know, I think the questions and comments about the two 6-unit buildings at the southeast corner of the site are good examples of elements that relate to zoning standards within Conservancy Place. Your scope does not include trying to speculate on what the intent of the village might have been 20 years ago, except to the extent that it's written in the 2018 preliminary development plan, which is your zoning document. Your role is not also to decide whether this site ought to be used for housing and which type, or even to which density, except to the caps that are laid out in Conservancy Place. The fact that Conservancy Place hasn't developed to that density is not a basis for your review. Conservancy Place development is unlike other projects and other areas that are sort of greenfield sites, in that it's been pre-approved for a certain number of housing units for a number of different years. I can talk about the details of that. We've heard numbers bandied about, but it is different in that we don't have a blank slate. We have a zoning scheme that's in place for us that we're plugging individual projects into right now. And finally, and I can't emphasize this one more, your job is to not evaluate whether this project warrants village financial support or not. That is entirely the job of the village board. And so I would I can't, you have free will. You can ask questions or make comments on whatever you want, but it really should have no bearing on whether this project meets applicable zoning standards within Conservancy Place, and if not, where improvements should be made to meet those zoning standards. I'll stop the lecture now, I'm sorry, but I will emphasize that I do have more details in the report that's included in your packet about the project, about potential improvements around the edges that I think are still warranted related to zoning standards, and a little bit about traffic and some of the other concerns that have been raised over the period of time. I'm happy to answer questions on any of that. I do believe that this project meets the zoning standards within Conservancy Place, subject to those minor tweaks, and would encourage you to offer your at least tentative support at this meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So with that, Jane, if you want to continue, or given the framework.
I just was saying that I thought that the project was well designed. It may need a few tweaks. I didn't want us commenting on the finances, but I also wanted to note that the needs for various housing that is both affordable and rental and of other natures meets what has been identified as needs for housing across the community, which is changing. The community is not the community it was 20 years ago. It's growing, changing. The characteristics of the population is changing, and the needs for different kinds of housing is changing. And projects of this nature offer some answers for some of those needs. And I did want to compliment the Franks on the project that we toured last week, and they're beautiful units. They're well designed, and people seem happy with them. That's what I wanted to say.
All right, thanks. So Abe, I know you had a couple of thoughts that you wanted to respond. I'll allow it if you wanted to.
Well, I just wanted to say that as a village board member at the time that the original neighborhood was approved, I can attest to the legislative intent. Mark, with all due respect, I'm not sure that you were even our consultant for the board yet at the time that it was approved. I think we still had another consultant, although I may be mixed up at that, but I was on the board at the time it was approved. I can attest to it. The other thing is the original PDP and FDP, I believe, that we approved on the village board at that time did not display any 4-story buildings as part of the maximum density development. I haven't even brought up the the fourth story today, because I do think that the rendering has improved the appearance of the building, but that building is huge. It is absolutely huge, bigger than anything else that we have in this village anywhere, bigger than anything else in this neighborhood. And yes, we do need to pay attention to how this neighborhood has developed.
All right, thank you. So with that, I'm guessing everybody has comments to discussion. Jim?
I'll add a bit too, that I do remember we had a planner actually on village staff at that time. I believe her name was Amy, but I was new to the planning and zoning at the time, but I was actually on it when we approved the original one. And I just remember back then, this was always pitched, the whole Conservancy place was pitched as a mixed use area. I personally like the mix that they're proposing as far as having affordable housing, or 160,000 if you consider that affordable, as a good thing as far as what maybe was the original intent of Conservancy Place. What I don't understand, and what I have a hard time comprehending, is why so much focus on this particular location. And my concern being, and it's some of the things we've talked about with our comprehensive plan update, is looking at which locations are going to be the best for these types of apartment complexes. And I personally, just looking at even really close to directly adjacent properties that I assume are still owned by the Ring family, I think there's even better locations that might be more of a draw for, say, the young professionals or the retirees to be, say, closer to a park or different other things. And I think it could add for a better transition on innovation, and maybe, like people talked about, having innovation keep the same character that it is. One thing that I would like to see addressed with the site plan, or one concern of mine, is the driveway location just on Conservancy Way. Sorry, I got too many windows up, but the Conservancy Way just north of Innovation Drive, I worry about that driveway being too close to the intersection.
Jim, I can quickly address that. That's been a source of confusion for a lot of people for a long time. That is not intended to be anything but an emergency access driveway. It just hasn't been rendered properly on the plans from day one. So Jim's talking about the driveway right there. It will not be a driveway except in the case of emergency for emergency vehicles.
Okay, that's good to know, because to me that was going to be probably the major use driveway if it was connected.
Right.
But looking at my notes, I like what you talked about with the walk-up feel of the commercial, but again, I just feel that there's better locations for the building that would have a better draw even for the commercial, if it say is on Windsor Road or on what I call the future River Road, which is now labeled as Conservancy Way. And I think I can leave it with that.
Thank you,
all the
Jim.
comments. Thank you.
Tom Sandow. Sorry, I didn't see you on screen, so I totally
No,
ignored
that's
you.
fine. I just have a question, how this plays into our comprehensive plan with this amount of apartments versus single-family homes. I know we're well under where we wanted to be and what we were shooting for. And this just drives it further south from where our goal is.
In considering comprehensive plan consistency, we have to evaluate what has already been approved. And Conservancy Place has already been approved for 711 what's called attached housing units. I looked at the number. It's going to elude me. It's in the report. 207 something on that order have been approved. Not all of them built just yet. So Conservancy Place is entitled to approximately 500 more attached housing units. And those could be in all various shapes and sizes. They can be rental or owner, regardless of intent 20 years ago. There's nothing in the current zoning documents that specifies that. So does it help your desired ratio in your comprehensive plan to approve this project? No. Do you have anything to say about it, given the prior approvals for Conservancy Place? I don't know that you do as a zoning body, because the prior zoning bodies have offered approval for 711 units in Conservancy Place.
Next question, if I can follow up.
Go ahead, Tom.
There's a rather large apartments complex going in on the other side of 51 in Windsor. Do we know exactly, I keep hearing that there's a large demand for these apartments. Do we know exactly what kind of a demand? Are we going to be oversaturated with apartments with putting up 400 there or 300, whatever number that you tend to believe, and then another whatever 125, 150 units here? Is that going to be too many for this area?
I'll speak for me, and then the developers who do their own market study can speak to it. From the data that we collected and included in the recent housing study that I just got you this morning, and my apologies for that too, we believe that there's enough demand for at least 100 units absorbed in the DeForest Windsor market each year. I think that's a bottom end of things. And this project has 125 rental units in it. They can speak to the build out and other things going on in the market, but there is in fact another project, Covered Bridges, I think, in Bear Tree Farms, that is, as I think you mentioned, Tom, anywhere between 300 and 400 units. Those are in multiple buildings that would be phased over time. So any developer or development will hopefully take into account the full market and can control phasing to reflect that market. We currently have in DeForest, in Windsor, in Waunakee, in Sun Prairie, very significant demand that is unmet in the market. Is it always going to be that way? Is it always going to be a tight apartment market? No, it tends to run in waves where vacancies are low, vacancies are high. Vacancies have been low for 10 to 15 years now, and the market is responding to that. The final thing I'll say to that point is that the market is changing in certain ways that may promote more rental housing and multiple family housing. It's hard to buy into single family. We just have talked about that. So a lot of the folks that might have been buyers in a different market are not buyers today. Relatedly, a lot of the buyers in the millennial generation and Gen Z have preferences to not have fixer-uppers. For whatever reason, they don't want to buy a $180,000 old house and then have to invest their own time, money, or sweat equity in that project. It could possibly be based on the third reason, is that we've got an increasingly mobile society, and that's getting even more pronounced as we have people, living in Superior, Wisconsin, and working for Google in California. So all that points to a demand for more rental housing, and much of the rental housing is in multiple family components. And to keep it relatively affordable, where people can actually, rent a unit, density is a common response. If you can get more units per acre and more units per building, your cost as a builder goes down per unit. And therefore your rents that you can charge are more affordable. With lumber and other building material costs going up, that's increasingly an issue. So I don't see any. And finally, sorry, that was my second finally, we've got jobs, teachers, protective services personnel, line workers, other employers that are creating jobs that are demanding workers that fit this kind of mold of this project and other projects like it. Not to mention nurses at the new hospital and American Center, junior employees and other things like that regionally. Thanks for the patience.
That's all I got.
Thanks, Tom. Mike, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just to some common things that I saw on here that I guess to provide support for the project. I like the fact that the location, I agree with Jim, maybe there's some sites someplace that maybe it makes more sense. But I like the concept of the first floor commercial aspects of the project. I drove by today downtown on East Washington with the facility that's right on East Wash, close to downtown, that's even got a Festival Foods in it. So obviously they're able to attract that type of clients to get them in that place that's looking for coffee shop, restaurant, all those facilities within a development. So I like that concept. I like the fact that it's at the end of Innovation Drive, if you will, not really having a huge impact on maybe the going back to the legislative intent of what they were trying to do with Conservancy Place. If you got ABS currently to the north, you got the Tender Reflections, you can call that commercial, you can call it housing, but relatively the same type of project as what we're talking about here. I think that the land north on River Road is going to end up being more of multifamily type of units. Even the concern about the 6 condo units with the backs being towards Innovation Drive. If they have nice decks on the back, it's a great area. Most, even in single family, people with decks, they sit on the back, they watch people go by. I happen to have one of the village's paths in my backyard. Great to sit on the back deck and just watch people go by. So I think that I don't see that as being something that's a distraction or a disadvantage to the property. If anything, it could actually make it a little more friendly to the neighborhood. And then I would just reiterate, I think what Mark said with the need for ownership in multifamily, owner-occupied multifamily units. So just, on the surface, I think there's a lot of things that probably have to go into the details, but just want to throw my support for this type of project in that location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Who else has comments, thoughts, concerns? This is your shot. Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I just wanted to, I guess, voice my support on this type of development, and I agree with Jane that we are lacking in DeForest as far as something a little bit more affordable. And I get what everybody else is saying in the Conservancy area. I realize that there's that mentality that if you drop the price point and you get it to a certain point, that you're going to get a certain type of people, and then you're going to get issues. We've heard that discussion, I don't know, many times over the last couple of years. Anytime some type of mixed use is proposed. I will tell you that personally, I know of 2 couples in DeForest that grew up with my kids that recently sold their house and are renting in the new condos and apartments in Sun Prairie, and they absolutely love it. So right there's 2 examples of, and they're my age. Kids just graduated high school. They wanted to downsize, but they wanted to stay within the area. But DeForest doesn't have anything like that to offer. So where'd they move to? They moved to Sun Prairie. I have a mother-in-law that is just lost her husband, is on a fixed income. She's looking for something. Well, when you're looking at price points of $325,000 to $350,000 for a 1, maybe even a 2-bedroom, that's way out of her price range. Something like this, is a tan line at offer that we could move her from Portage to DeForest. So I like that the developer is working with those in Conservancy. I like the feedback that they've been getting, that, you know, hey, can you guys work with this? Can you do this? And they've been very cooperative. And I agree that there's some tweaking that should probably continue as we move forward with this, but I think the concept is good, and I'm supporting it. Thanks, Jason.
All right, thanks, Brian. Jim, I think had a hand up.
Yeah, and I guess I want to sort of clarify something, that I do really like the concept as far as the amenities and the units and the mix of affordability of the units. I like that a lot. What I don't understand is the location, and you just the lift up one spot is like, you got other available land just south of Tender Reflections that is connected to the trail system, directly adjacent or across the street from the new fourplex of baseball diamonds. And what I wanted to happen, say with the comprehensive plan, is to look at these different locations and figure out which ones might be the best for these large developments as far as number of units, so we can pick out areas and locations that will hopefully never, I don't know quite how to say it, will not go downhill over the course of time, that will continue to be a huge asset for our village. So if we're only picking, say, one location in this area, which I don't know if we really are, because we heard that the Conservancy Place still has, what, 700 some units left?
Oh, 500.
500. So there might be room for multiple complexes like this, but I just want to make sure that we're moving forward in a direction that is the best for the village as far as having the best locations for these large complexes. And I did review my notes. One other thing I wanted to comment on that that I'll say Abe brought up during the original, I think it was 1999 proposal of Conservancy Place. I would suggest that what may have been happening at that location or that time is that we also didn't have a ladder truck in our fire department. So I know we were trying to limit the height of our buildings. And I believe they do now have a ladder truck, so that maybe is something that's changed since 1999. That's my final point of discussion.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? Scott?
Yep, quickly,
Yeah.
I won't take up too much time. I would be in support of the concept. I like the concept. I like Mark's recommendations on the 6 units, the orientation to continue to work with the village on making that more consistent with the rest of Conservancy Place. But otherwise, outside of that, I'm for it.
Scott, anybody else? I got Jean, go ahead.
I just wanted to offer my support too. I like this concept plan. A couple things I really like is that the parking is all unseen, basically. I like the underground parking. I think I like the mix of the different types of buildings. I think that I just like the amenities that are offered, and I like that the developer has done the community outreach. I think that that's important.
Oh, sorry, I was still muted. Thanks. Anyone else? I got a couple thoughts. I'm going to jump in on the 6th unit. So first, I know we sacrificed driveway access on Innovation Drive, even though the original intent was not to. We didn't really want to have driveways leading onto Innovation Drive any more than we had to, as it was a main thoroughfare. So I am not supportive of this in that current design, just on the in and out. based on the density and number of units, I mean, with that kind of inflow outflow, we're looking at turn lanes, traffic lights. There are hundreds of units here. So in the morning, it's going to be potentially controlled chaos. On the street facing design, I think we had some speakers make some very good points, kind of that forward looking concept. So those 6 units, they just don't fit with the rest. So agreed if they're going to continue to work to do that. I'm going to mention TIF, even though it's not our part. As a village board member, I could only support that 8,000 square feet of commercial space to ever be part of TIF. I wouldn't support any of the residential. That would have to stand on its own, even given these other examples where we used it in the past. I won't belabor that point. The design, that Texas wrap building, I'm having a hard time getting my arms around that. Just on scope. One thing it will do, it'll create a great sound barrier for many of the houses in the forest. It's going to deaden some of the interstate noise. But other than that, it's, and I haven't spent the time down to take a look at the one in Cottage Grove. Maybe I should, but I'm just not there yet, given the density. The other point, and it's maybe a question back to staff or Mark, is very early on, we kind of had different units in the PDP, and we had anticipated what we were going to put there. And then we had potential build outs and number of units constructed before that bridge had to go in. I would love to overlay what our intent was versus what it turned into, because I know there is a lot more single family that developed. So with that, I wouldn't say that we should be more dense in the remaining areas. But I would definitely want to be mindful to kind of how that all flows together. Also on the affordable scope, it's kind of like driving into a car dealer and then running out the door and saying, how much can you afford? 160,000. Okay, great. We're going to still charge you over $200 a square foot, but we got you something you can afford. So I really am not buying that definition of affordable housing. It's very small. Very different than the first proposal. I think that was tossed about here a little over a year ago, but I'm not quite there. I'll stop there. If anybody wants to contend or contest, happy to have you speak.
A lot of feedback from somewhere.
I think that's coming from Mark. You're lighting up when that noise.
Sorry about that.
So next steps, I'm going to look at Jim.
I was just gonna say, Jason, that as you know, too, we had a lot of multifamily that was proposed along Innovation Drive, and that was the majority of, say, a concept. Probably the original one, but the one that was 2013 or something like that, still showed multifamily, and we kept converting those larger lots into single family. And what was the latest subdivision, the Viridian one, that was also converted. And we had the discussion at every time that converted to single family, what's sort of happening. So to me, we're sort of setting ourselves up for this type of scenario. Good or bad, I don't know, but I think we could foretell that this
higher density
for higher
multifamily,
density in locations, because we're lowering the density in the rest of the.
And that was the point I was trying to make, is that if we've kind of sold our souls and decided to make a lot of the single family, I'm not looking to put it all back. That's opportunity's gone. That's no single family. I would like to remove that from the percentages and see what kind of numbers remain.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that we should keep constricting the land area and then have all of our multifamily so we can hit the requirements. I think we've left that long ago. And also the housing mix, and I know you guys are going to bring that up again, as far as what the density should look like, if a density exists at all. And it's really going to define how we shape the future. I think we all kind of opined on this a little bit last meeting, but this is kind of one of those cases as well. What do we want to look like going forward?
And I think that's where you and I differ, Jason, that when we scaled back the larger multifamily lots and the single, I sort of felt like we were still keeping the same units. So we would have a higher density at some location. I thought that was more or less an entitlement of the Rings families to keep those amount of units if they so chose.
Okay. Anybody else? Jane, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, you know, one of the things we're experiencing as a board and as a planning commission is a changing marketplace and a changing world. I mean, when Conservancy first started, there was discussions about a World Dairy Center and research parks and very different kind of scenarios than where we are today. And I commend you guys for your flexibility and recognizing that things change. Our developers can't develop the way they originally thought they could. And we are now addressing not only changing marketplaces, but changing population and changing growth. So, you know, as we look at the new comp plan and the new look at the housing study and we look at things going forward, I think we have to give a nod to where we came from and what our original intent was, but to make decisions based on the reality of current times. So just, I wanted to put that out because it is important. Decisions that this board makes and this commission makes will be remade by someone in the future when things change again. So we have to make the best decisions we can based on what we know now. Thank you.
Thank you. So given all that, I'm going to try to rein it back into our scope.
Jason?
In that, sorry, Adam, I don't have you registered as a commenter. So I'm not, oh, what the heck. We'll allow some flexibility. It's my last meeting. Go ahead, Adam.
I appreciate that. So I'm a resident of, I live on Autumn Blaze Trail. We've been here for about 11 years. I just want to, as a resident.
So Adam, if you could please just state your full name and address for the record, so we've got it.
Yep,
as
Adam Ryerson. I'm at 4642 Autumn Blaze Trail. Right, I've been in here for 11 years. I just want to say, number one, I love the idea that Jim, I think, brought up, maybe a couple other people, in regards to other locations. I don't disagree that DeForest needs these multifamily options, but just looking at the community and as it's been building, I just don't see that this is something that is needed in this exact spot. Maybe it is, but it'd be great to see some of that research. The only other thing I wanted to say is, I'm an employee of American Family Insurance, and we're, as most of you know, there's a ton of changes going on with remote work moving forward. So I just wonder if there's been some like research done as far as like how much of housing is actually needed with the amount of change that's happening in relation to the pandemic. We have maybe 20% of our employees that are going to be going back to work, so that I could move and go anywhere I wanted to and have my same job. So has that been a factor in the strategy that's that's occurred in regards to how many units we need in this exact village? So thank you for letting me speak, Jason.
Thank you, Adam. Very good question, and I won't put staff on the spot, but definitely something to be mindful of, given that we are now a remote officed world.
So I will quickly say people will move where they want to live, and places that are attractive to them by providing the amenities they offer, whether they're good schools, parks, recreation, exciting amenities, nightlife, you name it, are going to attract the people. And affordability is one aspect as well. So I don't have any statistical information, but I just, as a planner, what I've been reading and hearing is that the places that are going to win are the places that are perceived as good schools, safe, affordable, amenity-rich places. And I think the forest has a lot of those going for it. And so I would imagine you're going to be one of the winners in that sweepstakes of where people who can choose to live anywhere actually decide to live.
Thanks, Mark. And I still think we are one of the best values in Dane County and one of the only smart places left to grow residentially. So agree with you there. Okay, so given what all the discussion has entailed, what kind of message do we want to offer back to the prospective developers on these units? Keeping the scope specifically to what is in our purview. So I've heard the 6 units are kind of need a little work. Some of the access points might not be the best. Anything else? Anyone else? Jane, go ahead.
I think overall, one of the messages is that the project is well designed, that it maybe needs a few tweaks, but that they've addressed a lot of the conditions and comments that we provided to them previously. So, you know, and I think there were a number of issues that were raised when we toured last week, and they've agreed to address some of those. Safety things that the police department had, those sorts of things. So I think a message is good project. Keep working with staff, and let's try and finish tweaking the other pieces that are of concern.
Oh, yes.
You're on
Thank you,
mute.
Jane. Go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say, agree with Jane that I think overall it's a good project, and I do like everything. Myself personally, I feel like we're jumping the gun a little bit on the location and would want to see it play out more in the comprehensive plan, but it sounds like I'm in the minority on this commission.
So I'll ask Jim, given that the kind of they've been, them and the Rings have sort of been hand in hand on this, are there other places on Ring owned property where you might think this would work?
I personally think that it's good to have these large complexes adjacent to recreational property and connected to our bike trail system. So if that's a driving criteria that people can get on board with, there's a spot directly south of Tender Reflections. If you look at the commercial aspect that I think would be a good amenity to the whole neighborhood, then again, I think you want to look at, say, the River Road corridor, which is also named as Conservancy Way, or the Windsor Road, where we used to have the area that we called the Promenade, where that was supposed to be more commercial mix down there. So that's.
I'm not giving up on the Promenade yet. Okay.
That's what I would leave it at. Oh, I guess there's even another spot that's farther north on the other side of Yahara River. There's like a sort of an island of a lot. You know what I'm talking about? So
Mark's nodding.
Yeah.
So yes,
I really like the whole concept of this, and I think it's a needed mix, and I'd love to see it come to DeForest. So I don't want people to take my comments as negative. I don't understand this particular location. It seems a bit crammed to me.
Okay, thanks. Jane.
And I just wanted to say that I think this location makes as much sense as any of the others that you described, Jim, and I'm not trying to be contrary, but I've sat through meetings where people have proposed projects in several other neighborhoods around town, and every one of them comes up with the same concerns the neighbors from Conservancy Place have raised with this site. I also think we have to be realistic and know that this site has been slated for this project, and the developers have been working on it for multiple years now, and it's costly. The amount of money that you put into engineering something like this, you don't just readily say, oh, whoops, I'm going to move 2 stories down or across the street and 2 lots down, because you have to go through all sorts of engineering and all sorts of costs. And that raises not only the cost per unit, but it raises concerns about why people would ever come to develop into forest. And I think we have to be cognizant of that and respectful of it. If we had concerns about the site a year ago or more, is when we should have raised those. So I just want to put that out there, because I get calls from developers pretty constantly now, and with concerns about last minute changes in engineering costs and all of those issues. And while sometimes it's necessary and we can't avoid it, I think we have to be respectful of the fact that it's not just our money that we're spending, it's also their money we're spending.
Thank you. All right, last call. Any other comments? Otherwise, I think the Franks have pretty good understanding of where the commission sits, at least. Are you guys good?
Yeah, overall, I guess we can make one last comment here. So I guess in taking this all in, I mean, we're all for listening to opinions. We of course have our own opinions as far as the demand, the given site, the zoning, how it reads, and we of course our opinion is very good about this. All the above on this site, we did our due diligence even before December 2019, as far as assessing all these sites available in the DeForest area that we were potentially interested in. There was a lot of legwork that went into that. From December onto early 2020, there was a lot of time that went into assessing this given site and putting together our first concept plan. And from our first concept plan, would I guess like to make it very clear again that this isn't our initial concept plan. Our initial concept plan was a full year ago, and we've been working on this for a year with the village, and very, very open to any suggestions and concerns. And we've made numerous changes to the site, and we feel that at this point, this is a very refined site plan. The items we feel need a little last attention to is those 6-unit buildings, which again, we're very receptive to suggestions from the village, and we're working on working out the options on our end too, while we work through the logistics as far as grading and stormwater requirements and what our options are for that location. Beyond that, traffic, we feel this is the of any potential developer looking to develop this site, with what it's slated for zoning wise, and the price, of course, for the land based off of the zoning and what the comp plan shows for this area. We feel our use has on the very, very low end of the spectrum as far as overall traffic. Multifamily is surprisingly low compared to any type of commercial uses as far as average daily traffic count. And we feel beyond that, the amount of covered parking between the underground parking, the garages, the parking ramp, and the excess of parking on site, and it being as centralized as possible with ingress egress. We feel that we've addressed that as good as we can for this given site. I'd like to make note as far as back to the emergency vehicle access. If you take a look at the mixed use building, you can see several items that were actually added in conjunction with the fire department and EMS as far as access. So this is probably the best access I've ever seen in a multifamily building for fire department access. We added the emergency vehicle access at the southwest corner, which of course isn't going to be used by residents. I guess one example, if you wanted to see one recent, would be the new apartments, Monona on Yahara River. They have pretty close to the same thing. that was actually required at that given approval process a couple years ago. And then if you look at access around the building, we have all 4 sides with access for the fire department. We have the turnarounds added upon request as well. In general, I guess the overall point is just want to make clear that we have, this isn't our original concept, and we have put countless time and energy to getting to this point. And I also want to make it clear that we are very, very open to hearing any comments you have and suggestions as moving forward here.
Thank you. All right, with that, seeing no other hands, we're going to move on. I think we've gotten everything out. All right, moving on, actually back to item 5.6. Action and recommendation on ordinance to adjust shoreland zoning regulations, chapter 25, and village consultant. You're muted, sir. Mark.
Thank you. I will afford you the opportunity to postpone action on this if you like. We're well overdue our statutory deadline. I don't know if the Shoreland Police are going to come get us in the ensuing month. So if you're interested, you could certainly postpone action. And I'll pause there and see what the will of the group might be.
I'm looking around. I don't see anybody sleeping yet.
I think we should
I
do
don't
it.
know that. Go ahead, Jim, next month.
No, I think we should just finish it. I don't feel like it's going to take that long, but.
All right. So I'm going to let Mark speak to
Can I
this.
ask, how long will it take?
Oh, about
Is it-
40 minutes.
Up to you. I can take 3 minutes explaining what I did, and I can limit it to that.
Okay.
I have too many comments on this. You probably want to wait on this thing.
I was
Mark,
afraid of that.
Where would you like me to go, Mark?
I am going to say, I don't know if it's really at my pleasure or not to not take action. It's on the agenda, so anybody looking to delay action on the shoreline zoning resolution,
I'd make a motion to postpone.
I got a motion by Sandow.
I'll second that, Tom.
And seconded by Taylor. Any additional discussion? I heard Jim is ready to roll with it and get through it. Jane, you had your hand up?
I support postponement.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'd look to call it. All in favor of postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I heard Jim, and I'm guessing the ayes have it.
Yeah.
So this is postponed to next
Amazing.
meeting. You guys are so lucky.
So was it?
I
just
expect you to
one?
come back here. Yeah.
6-1 or
6-1.
7-1. I heard Jim, we were the only no. Anyone
Yeah.
else in opposition?
You
6-1.
abstained, Jason?
I was the aye to postpone.
All right.
See you next month, Jason.
I don't think so. So item 7, any other business? Chair reports. Oh, Jane?
Well, I just, before we get too far into the meeting, wanted to thank Jason. He has chosen not to run, but he has put in an awful lot of good work, and I truly appreciate it. And he better hang on, because we're not done with you, Jason, but we want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I echo
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Jason.
You
Thank
can't
you.
make me emotional yet. I got another couple of weeks to get through. But it's truly, I mean, this is a body that I was pretty passionate about very early on and was fortunate enough to get on this thing. Soon to learn that this is the absolute longest meeting known to man, with the exception of CARPC, which I also sat on in the early years till I got tired of beating my head against the wall. But it's been a pleasure and seeing all of you. And I mean, it takes a lot. So I appreciate everyone that's put forth the time and the effort to do a great job. And we have a very diverse position of opinions, which I think is pretty magnificent for the community as a whole, because we get a lot of different, very valued opinions out there, and we get a lot of good stuff done. So, I mean, we've grown in amazing ways, I think, in the last 12 years. So you can all take a little pride in that, but it's been a pleasure. I won't say forever, but it's time to step back from local politics for a while. So thanks.
Jason, and I would add, I think I'm the longest term person, and I've been on this committee with at least 3 different chairpersons, I think maybe 4. And you talked about how long this meeting maybe was. This is nothing compared to when I started. And
sure,
but I want to lift that up, as you've done a great job leading these meetings over the times. I would hesitate to say, I'm wanting to make sure Abe is off the meeting, but I'd say that you were the best one. So
He might still be listening, but I appreciate it.
Word's gonna get out.
All right, word will spread. Also, just as a point of interest, I believe tomorrow and Thursday, so we have Jim Simpson here running for village trustee, and I believe there is a trustee forum. The library is hosting seminars or sessions, Q&A sessions. Registration is required. So if you find that on the library's page, please share and also comment that registration is required, because that's not, I don't think that's typical, but it's probably a way for the library to help manage attendance. So Jim, maybe you'll be in this chair in a month or so, and you'd definitely be more than qualified. It would be up to our pending continued village president.
Yeah,
he's also on this thing. So thank you, and I wish you all the best.
And just on the forums, the school board is Wednesday night and the Board of Trustees is Thursday night. So throw some questions to Jim and the rest of the candidates on Thursday night.
And as I registered, and I think it's the questions are going right to Jan Berg's email. And then she'll send them, I think, to Jane. I think Jane is hosting. Is that what I heard?
Jane Hinsey.
Okay, wonderful. So I think she was very active with League of Women Voters in the past, and I think just assumed this thing with the library. So good for her, and I appreciate her for doing that.
I was going to mention registering was very quick. And as soon as I put it in, I got an email back. So please do.
Okay, great. Staff report?
I don't have
Nothing.
anything.
Site
might
plan
have-
approvals, CSM approvals,
Nope.
development process enforcement suggestions, last chance. Nobody's parking on grass anymore. Snow's gone. Spring's sprung.
well.
Brandy's taking care of all of our concerns with the
Right.
local patrol run.
They are
Right.
still parking on the grass, though.
That's not a violation of ordinance.
It should be.
I've tried, and our attorney has a lot of arguments against that, so.
Oh, but it had to be concrete paved.
That's for trailers.
We've enforced that, not for cars, so I could pack them in like Lambeau Field.
Mhm.
You can put them on your front yard.
Well,
Yeah.
anybody need to park, $20. There's beer in the fridge and
Right.
great company. I'll have a lot of time on my hands.
Mhm.
All right, thanks.
Careful, I might be able to drink $20 worth of beer.
Everybody except Jim. Jim's got a BYO.
Yeah, right.
All right, next meeting date, April 27th, 2021. That's it. Look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by
Hickok.
Jim, seconded by Hickok. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. We stand adjourned at 8:38 PM. Thanks,
Got that
everyone.
noted, Brandy.
Everybody.
I
Thanks,
noted
Jason.
that he said nay.
Thank you, guys.
I won't put it down as a nay, though.
I think he wants it there.
Do you want it as a nay?
I wouldn't have voted nay unless I wasn't quite ready to.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you were joking. So 8:38 PM. 8:38 PM, Jason Kramer.
I was expecting an hour meeting, so thank you all for hanging in there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good night.
I gotta still work. I gotta download this recording. That takes about an hour. Woo.
Oh,
Ooh.
Liana.
Good night.
Good night.